Hello, and welcome back to Assistant Elections. Whilst the focus has been on the presidential race in the last few weeks, I want to take the focus back onto the very important Senate races happening in 2024. What I have up is a 2024 map, and I've filled in every single state that has an incumbent party representative, so either Democrat or Republican, that shares the state's 2020 presidential result, and I filled in every single state. So Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, these are all competitive Senate races in 2024, but they voted for the Democrats in 2020 presidential level, and they currently have a Democratic incumbent. This leaves three open states: Montana, Ohio, West Virginia. For the purposes of this video, West Virginia is an automatic flip. Joe Manchin, the former Democrat, the now current independent, is retiring, and the popular Republican incumbent governor is going to run, and he is almost certainly going to win. This leaves Montana and Ohio to pretty much to decide the Senate. If Trump wins in this scenario, because this is pretty much the baseline for the Republicans, Texas and Florida are competitive, but not really. Pretty much Trump's going to win the presidency. If that's the scenario, JD Vance becomes the tiebreak vote. However, if Democrats win both Montana and Ohio by holding on to them, then the Democrats win the Senate, so long as Kamala Harris wins the presidency. Now, I'm going to look more in detail into both these Senate races. I'm going to have a quick look at what they're shaping up to be, the history behind them, and how the Democrats can hold on, because if the Republicans win just one of these, then they are almost certainly going to win the Senate. Now, let's look at Ohio first of all. The incumbent senator is the Democrat, Sherrod Brown. He has been the incumbent senator for since 2006. He beat the incumbent senator, Mike DeWine. Of course, Mike DeWine is now the incumbent Republican, and he has won re-election every single election since then. He's been challenged by Bernie Moreno, a non-politician, and it's going to be a very interesting uphill race for Bernie Moreno in this thing, because Sherrod Brown is a very popular incumbent Democrat. However, Ohio is now a likely Republican state at the presidential level. Now, the Montana Senate race is going to be slightly different. It still has a incumbent Democratic senator, Jon Tester. However, he also has been in the Senate seat since 2006, and he has had a few very narrow Senate elections, 2012 and 2018, all favourable Democratic years. But he has held on to that Senate seat in all of those elections. In 2018, he actually got his highest percentage of the vote share at just over 50%. He is running against Tim Sheehy, a retired U.S. Navy SEAL and CEO and founder of a aerospace company. Now, I'm going to be looking at the polling quickly. The Ohio Senate polls. This is on the Hill. This is a average of all the polls. For Montana, unfortunately, we do not have that. But the average on the Hill gives Sherrod Brown currently a 5-point lead, essentially over Bernie Moreno. This is a very strong lead to have in a state where Donald Trump won by about 10 points back in 2020 and increased his vote share over the victory that he got in 2016. Now, if we want to go down and look at some of the polls, it is pretty much a sea of blue for Sherrod Brown. He is leading on average, like I said, by 5 points. And some of these, and these have been taken fairly recently. I mean, the most recent one was taken by Activote. They've done quite a lot of polling in a lot of certain states, a lot of swing states. +5 Brown, +4 Brown, +6 Brown. There are some outliers here, +12 Brown. That is almost certainly not going to happen. But this is only a positive for Sherrod Brown. If Bernie Moreno cannot get on top of even one of these polls, then he is already facing a massive uphill battle to try and unseat the fairly popular incumbent senator. Now, Montana is slightly different. Montana, of course, voted for Trump by 16 points back in 2020, and it voted for Trump by a similar margin in 2016. However, Jon Tester won his re-election bid in 2018 in between the two presidential elections. Although it was a narrow race, I believe he won by 2 or 3 points. I'd have to go back and check that. But he won not so narrow that it was only a few thousand votes, but he won by, a few tens of thousands of votes. However, the polling is not looking ideal for him at the moment. Now, this is the most recent poll conducted only about a week or two ago, and it has tested with a 5-point lead. However, that is the only poll which has tested leading in a very, very, very long time. The last one was taken at the end of February, so in my opinion, we can pretty much discount that poll. That poll is about 5 to 6 months behind now, and not very representative of the current political environment we are in. However, as you can see, a lot of the polls that do have Xi up been Republican commissioned, Xi +5, Xi +6, even though even the Montana Republican Party commissioned a poll and it saw Tester and Xi even. There was also another even poll. Here it was, by another super PAC that is Republican sponsored. But in a lot of the other polls, especially the Emerson College poll, this is 1,000 likely voters. Sheehy is up +2 within the margin of error, but that is still a lead. And that is probably what I see the base mark at the moment is at the race. In the Sherrod Brown race, I think it's probably in the middle. I think Sherrod Brown is probably at the base mark of 2.5 if the election was to be held today. And it's probably the reverse. The Republican Tim Sheehy is likely leading by 2.5 points in Montana if the election was held today. Now, I want to look at the path to victories for the Democrats. I want to give a quick shout out to Davis Models. This is where I got the pretty much the baseline mark for the Democrats. We're going to be looking at the Montana one. I have overlaid some of the big cities in the states. I'm going to go into a bit more detail. But essentially, what these maps show is this is a D plus 0.001 result. So this is the absolute minimum baseline for a John Tester victory. Of course, I'm not going to be looking at it from a Republican standpoint because this map pretty much shows it. And if the Republicans win either of these Senate races, then the Democrats have lost the Senate, and therefore there is not much to talk about in the Senate. However, Montana is a really interesting state because it's going to vote for President Trump by a huge margin. Maybe not a huge margin, probably about 15 points, 15 to 20 points in the presidential election. But there's going to be a lot of ticket splitting, and it's going to be very tight at the Senate level. So, as you can see, I've overlaid some of the big cities: Helena, the state capital; Missoula, the biggest city; Butte, another big city. This is where the Democrats are going to have to do well. And it is some pointing pretty much saying the Democrats are going to have to win by 35 points in Missoula County for John Tester to have a chance of winning. You're also seeing a lot of other Democratic counties in these areas. I didn't overlay it, but as you may well know, Montana has quite a lot of American Indian reservations. There's the Crow Reservation down here in this county. In Glacier County, you have the Blackfoot Reservation, and then some other reservations. They pretty much line up, the Flathead Reservation as well. They pretty much line up with the other Democratic areas in the state that are outside of the urban areas. So they're going to have to do very well in the reservations. They're going to have to do very well in the urban areas, specifically the suburban areas. That is where John Tester is going to be able to get a win. And this is a really good benchmark, like I said. Go into Davis Models if you want to go. I found this on his Twitter page, but you'll find that on the website if you want to have a more detailed look. Now, over to the Ohio Senate race, I have a much better layover here, but it's really interesting because, like again, pretty much in Ohio, there's not as many reservations. The way the Democrats are going to win here is by running up the votes in the urban areas and specifically the suburban areas. Cincinnati, for example, for Sherrod Brown to have a benchmark win result, he has to win by D plus 20. In 2012, Obama only won by about 5 to 10 points in this county. Therefore, the suburban shift, which has been happening and shifting over to the Democrats for a number of years now, is going to have to be a real big factor for Sherrod Brown to win. I also want to look in this area in the northeast of the state. As you can see, this county, Republican +5, this county, Mahoning, D +5. These are all counties that tended to be very strongly Democratic. A big manufacturing, blue-collar worker base there. Donald Trump has done amazing numbers. I believe Mahoning County, Obama won by close to 25 points in 2012. And now they're hoping to just hold on there. I believe Trump won by about 10 points, or very close in Mahoning County in 2020. Essentially, Sherrod Brown is going to have to hold on to a lot of the blue-collar worker vote there. And if he can do that, he may lose it, but as long as he holds on and gains ground in suburban areas, then he still has a path to victory in Ohio. Now, I want to have a quick look at some of the news that's coming out. Essentially, this article just says that there's been hundreds of millions spent in the Ohio Senate race. As you can see, $310 million for one Senate race is insane. As it says here, Bernie Moreno has put forth nearly $25 million on an ad drop on pretty much all media platforms. He has raised 130 million from the super PAC. Sherrod Brown has just outdone him, 45 million ad buyers since April, and that is on top of 150 million funding from the Democratic Senate campaign, I believe. And I want to look at the Montana Senate race. Jon Tester has pretty much made a name for himself by being a more independent, centrist-leaning Democrat, and as you can see, he refuses to endorse Kamala Harris. His two reasons are slightly different to the ones that I gave, but he just pretty much wants to make it a local race. He wants to make it a Montana race. Montana. That's what he want. That was what he is wanting to talk about. And the reason he didn't show up for the DNC last week is he wanted to watch a rock band in his home state. I believe it was in Missoula County. Now he's clearly tried to run a very local campaign that has worked for him in the last 3 elections. It's going to be interesting to see if it works in this election. However, I'm just going to quickly characterize what I think is happening based on the trends, the polls, and the demographics at the moment. I think Sherrod Brown is going to narrowly hold on, and I do think Jon Tester is going to lose to Tim Sheehy. Of course, these races are very tight. I showed you the path to victory for the Democrats, but these are not easy races. However, if Tim Sheehy did unseat the incumbent Jon Tester, then the Democrats have no chance of winning the Senate unless they somehow manage to flip Texas or Florida. But realistically, that is a very, very tough ask. Their path to victory is much easier if Jon Tester holds on to Montana and Sherrod Brown holds on to Ohio. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more content. And I'll see you all again very soon.